Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and cockles presented by Bolin Media. I am Ross Bolin here with Mr. Barrett Dudley, and I want to start today's show a little bit differently by giving an opening statement. Here it is. Wow. Barrett, your thoughts?
Oh, man. Look, this was a real curveball and a hell of an episode.
Whew.
And just one of the moments in TV, history and lore that I think, it's kind of why we watch to a large degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is to kind of be knocked off our stools, to kind of have our minds blown. As always, credit to Succession and the showrunners and the actors and everybody involved, because even though I think that the big reveal here, and obviously going forward, if you're listening, this will be a spoiler-heavy episode. I don't know why you would have tuned in if you have not already watched this thing.
Get out of here, you silly goose.
But so turn it off now, last chance. But yeah, man, I think knew to expect Logan's death at some point in this season. It was a very, very realistic possibility, especially after we got that diner scene in the very first episode with him and Colin,
His best pal.
And for them to drop it on us in episode 3, it's kind of, it's classic subversive television making, and yet it worked like a charm. And I'm so excited that we get 6 or 7 or however many episodes it is to deal with the fallout from this massive loss.
Yeah, it has been a while since I watched an episode of TV that kind of had my jaw dropped.
Yeah.
Where I was just, I was like eating it. I was smiling at first because I was like, oh my God, they're really doing it.
Let me ask you this. How long into the episode was it before you ridded your mind of the idea that he was going to pop back up, that the defibrillators were going to recover him and save his life, and that he was going to be at some point he was going to lurch up and he was going to be back?
Probably about the time Roman started going into the denial phase.
Yeah.
When he was like, we don't actually know he's gone, is when I was very confident at that point that it was real, because they had dragged it on for too long.
Yeah.
But they really toyed with us, man. They weren't showing his body.
Nope.
They were doing chest compressions, and Tom's putting the phone down by his head, but you don't see him at all until Shiv finally gets on the call and is the one that's able to talk to her dad a little bit.
Is that where they pulled to the angle where at the top of his head,
where you
basically,
could see him,
where you could see him a little bit?
Yeah.
That is essentially when they went to that angle. That's when I was like, oh shit, I think this is real.
Yeah. It was beautifully done. I'll say that this episode was a masterclass in television making, from an acting standpoint, a directing standpoint, a writing standpoint. It was, like you said, I'll always remember the moment I watched the episode where Logan Roy died. And I did not, look, I've been on Logan's Gotta Die. Team Logan has to go for a season and a half.
I believe last week at some point in one of the episodes, you said you wanted Logan to die.
I think it was Patreon. But I obviously didn't think we would get it in episode 3. I'm glad that we did, because also, like you said, the fallout is what is going to make the beauty of the rest of this season, right? It's going to make it so much fun to watch, and we got some insights into what that might look like over the course of this episode, but I was surprised, man. This was wild.
And hindsight here, but now that we've seen the first 3 episodes, they make so much sense as a group of episodes now.
Oh, yeah.
It's this little trilogy, essentially, that kind of sets off the back half of the final season here of the full Knives Out, Caesar's dead, mayhem that's going to occur now. But it's I really, really, we talked so much last week about how we were kind of pushed to Logan's side a little bit, that he was reading as a very empathetic character, that regardless of some ulterior motives happening when he came to the kids, when he went to the karaoke room, when he didn't demand that they come outside to meet him, when he kept kind of giving them these these
concessions.
Concessions. Thank you. He kept giving them these concessions, and he went in and said the word sorry. He said sorry. There were moments where he seemed genuine, and that performance from Brian Cox was so just like we got the best Brian Cox performance ever, basically last episode.
Yeah.
Between the pirate speech on the paper boxes and then the mea culpa in the karaoke room, and it's just like now you see this episode and like he was in the episode for 30 seconds in the cold open, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that and so for just all that to say, like the episode that essentially was his last one for most intents and purposes was like just a powerhouse performance. It tilted the scales as to like how we kind of read him and felt about Logan Roy as a character a little bit, and then to just rip him away, man. I mean, like it was sad for on both like a character level as you watch the kids kind of break down about it, and then also just as an audience member and watching a TV show that I love, like I like. It's sad. Like Brian Cox's Logan Roy is awesome. He's the engine of the show, and it's over. And that run is over. So I think that's sad.
That last episode solidified Logan Roy for me as it put him in the same space as Tony Soprano. Not from like a necessarily impactful performance. I mean, that was a lot more seasons. The Sopranos is a show that I put on a level that nothing else has really touched. But in terms of the gray area he occupies morally, like a lot of people watch The Sopranos and they hate AJ, right? His son. But AJ is the way AJ is because of Tony, right? And Tony does a lot of terrible things, but you still find yourself rooting for him at different points. And that's really what Logan Roy became. And like, as much as we want to, you find yourself wanting to give him credit for what he did in that last episode, coming out, giving the kids all those concessions, really like dropping his emotional wall a little bit.
Yeah. He did. He was attempting to let them in, absolutely.
But it's still his fault that they are who they are, right? Like he's a shit dad on many different levels, and kind of a monstrous human. But
yes.
It was good to get that big final Brian Cox as Logan Roy episode before this one, which really pulls the rug out from under us, right? And if it's not abundantly clear at this point, we are here to discuss Season 4, Episode 3 of Succession, which is very ironically titled...
Great title.
Connor's Wedding.
Yeah.
Let's jump into some of the details here. So we have the cold open, like you said, and in that cold open, we start with Logan calling Roman from his car on the way to the plane to invite Roman to come with him to see the Swede, as he calls him, Mattson. And he also tells Roman to fire Jerry today, like as soon as possible. Yeah. And Logan says he was uncomfortable with how Jerry handled things with the DOJ letter and the spinoff of ATN. Mm-hmm. And this is obviously a big deal because it spurs Roman to make the phone call later in the episode where he asks his dad via voicemail if he's a cunt, which will likely cause Roman to blame himself for his father's death on some level, right?
Yeah, because we're maybe supposed to start insinuating, or that was maybe supposed to insinuate that Logan potentially like listened to the voicemail.
Maybe in the bathroom. Yeah, it is possible. It is Connor and Willa's wedding day, and Connor really did get a brass band. And they really are getting married under the Statue of Liberty. But I was very disappointed to not see any bum fights. There was a lack of bum fights.
Yeah. I don't think they went full, aggro, like just making headlines with this thing.
Sadly.
He speaking of giving concessions, he gave Willa the day that she had not really hoped for, but sort of hoped for.
Yeah. He met her halfway.
Let me throw this out here right now as we get into the wedding. Because one thing that kind of threw me for a loop, everybody's worth hundreds of millions of dollars here, and yet this boat wedding is happening apparently on a Friday? Why is this not a Saturday?
That's a good question. Let's be real, the whole boat wedding is a bizarre spectacle that like is not really at the level you would expect for these people, right? Like, I would have expected like a super yacht.
Right.
And it was kind of like
a ferry.
Ferry?
Yeah.
But whatever.
But I don't know. Like maybe there was a lot of like, it did kind of feel like old school, early America, like pomp and circumstance to be out on like a big yacht like that. Like
1930s or something.
Yeah, like the Hudson River or wherever the hell they are. But But yeah, they keep talking, and inevitably they keep talking about what this is going to do to the markets.
Yeah.
You know? And there was talk about, can we not wait until the markets close at least, which would imply that this is happening in New York time, like 2:30 on a Friday.
Really
which is
weird.
A very weird time.
It's not like the black tie affair you would expect from a billionaire family at all.
So
I think that's supposed to kind of, say more about how Connor is viewed by all of these people, right?
Kind of treated, yeah.
He's not a serious person either, and doesn't really have the pull or the clout to pull off like the hardcore, super formal wedding on a Saturday night.
Yeah. So just a quick note before we dive into further detail.
Yeah.
Because the markets were apparently open.
Yep. Connor hears a few of his younger wedding guests moaning about the rich, and he points out to Willa's mother that Mr. Scrooge just happened to be a huge wealth creator. He's talking about Ebenezer Scrooge. And he says, but they don't mention that in Mr. Dickens's books, do they? So, Tom...
That was Willa's mom, right?
Yeah. Tom is going with Logan to visit Mattson, but Greg is not. So Tom calls Greg, and they have this kind of back and forth where Greg is like, well, do you have all the support you need and for Sweden? And Tom says, yeah, in the form of 3-4 people Gregging for me. A few little mini Gregs from the pig pen, little Greglets. Little Greggies running around. When he arrives to board his flight, that was like one of the few moments I would add of like comic levity in this episode. We usually get a lot more.
Why do you have all of those Greggies, Tom?
What are they doing for you?
As he walks away?
When they arrive to board the flight, Logan informs Tom that today is also the day he wants to fire Sid. Remember, Sid has kind of been on the chopping block related to ATN's programming, which Logan is unhappy with. So Sid and Jerry are going down today. Until, of course, they aren't, because the old man dies. And now we kind of don't know what's going to happen with either of them. But, one of the things I noticed in this one, what is it with Roman saying dicky dick and fucky fucky and things in that style so much this season? I despise it. But like when Tom calls him to make sure that Roman is going to fire Jerry today, he tells Tom, back off, you inflatable dicky dick. And that was like the first of 3 of those types of lines he has in this episode. And he had one like last week or the week before. And it's just kind of pissing me off at this point.
Well, what's Connor's famous line about the sucky suck?
He wants some sucky suck on his dicky dick.
Yeah, I mean, a dicky dick is like one of the things that they just is like part of their lingo.
These Roys. Weirdos. Roman is a spaz. So Roman approaches Jerry with the intent of giving her a heads up that bad news is coming, but accidentally kind of tells her in a roundabout way that she's going to be axed, right? At first he's trying to set it up like, just so you know, like bad news, but also we'll talk about it in 30 minutes. And then like it just kind of ends up sort of half-assed coming out. Which Jerry, first of all, she appears to be very upset about the firing, about the situation. And Roman says one of those classic Roy things that like Kendall drops in episode 1 of season 1. He tells that guy like, I'm going to stuff your mouth with so much money, like whatever. Roman says something similar to Jerry, like we're going to stuff your mouth with so much gold. He's like, you can go the legal route if you want, like Sue was or whatever, because she brings up the dick pics. And like the sexuality between her and Roman.
Sure.
And you can tell when Logan calls Roman to tell him, hey, you have to go fire her, that's one of the first things that occurs to him, right? Because at one point last season, he says, hey, Dad, maybe we shouldn't fire the lady that I've been like sending a bunch of cock shots to.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty intentionally like a, however you want to look at it, whether either a test for Roman, right? Or, probably a little bit more mean-spirited than that as well, I think,
Yeah, so let's just get into this part. Roman calls Logan, leaves him a voicemail right after he has to talk to Jerry, and he says, that was horrible with Jerry, and don't listen to this if you don't want to, but I'm not totally okay with, are you kind of just being shitty to me? Because your son is getting married, and you can't fucking keep expecting me to bend over for you like being cunty. So I'm just asking. So, yeah, that's the question. Are you a cunt? Okay, give me a buzz. And then he hangs up. And then Kendall hits Roman with a kidney chop. But
kidney chop. I laughed for like 30 seconds. Kendall, I don't know. Jeremy Strong is an insane person.
Yeah.
He embodies Kendall so well. Like, I don't like. There's no way that kid. Do you think I just want to know if like something like the kidney chop was just like actually written into the episode, or if Jeremy Strong just knows Kendall so well that when he's in this zone, right? He has been all season of like this kind of like just kind of floating through a little bit, right?
Yeah, he's found Buddhism.
Yeah, he's pretty zen.
A little more free and easy.
He's a little zenned out.
Yeah,
he's kind of free and easy. He's not overthinking things too much.
Right.
And that Kendall is pretty fun. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Anyway, I just this was like a really like it was a throwaway, but the kidney chop was so funny to me and so Kendall.
Could have been improv.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to tell with these people because they're all so good at acting. But the significance of that phone call and the question about what was Logan doing? Like, why would you give this? Like, in the last episode, he pulls Roman in, tells him, I need you. Mm-hmm. I need somebody that's cutthroat, right?
Yep.
To come run ATN.
A real fire breather.
And then very first thing next episode, he's giving him this task that it almost seems like he's setting, like you said, it could be a test, but also just like felt like it was setting Roman up for trouble. Like he knows that he's had this relationship with Jerry. He even alludes to it in that phone call, Logan does. Yeah. He's like, y'all have had your thing or whatever.
Right. So Roman being the one to fire Jerry could even be like another, that wouldn't look great. The optics of it aren't great.
No,
right?
It feels problematic.
Yeah.
Like that it would spur her toward legal action, right?
Yeah.
Weird move. But yeah.
Logan has some of those questions. He when they do have that first phone call, he kind of peppers Roman with questions about like, you're on my side, right? You're on this team, right?
He wants him to prove he's not half-assing it, right? That he's for real.
I think it's that that loyalty test, like the thing where when you're undercover and they're like, prove it, you got to go kill that guy, basically.
Or like shoot up this heroin.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those moves where it's like, are you really with me? Go fire this person that I know you're close to and have had some type of weird thing with, because I know you won't like to do that, but it'll prove to me that you're serious about taking the next step.
Yeah. I'm just very curious to see where this phone call goes in terms of how it affects Roman moving forward. There are even people who were speculating that the reason Roman is the one to go see his father off the plane is that he was going to try to delete the voicemail.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, I don't think his phone is still there in his pocket at that point, folks.
And I don't think that the voicemail is it's not like some smoking gun. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's just a
thing that's going to mess with Roman's head.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's not like somebody's going to listen to the voicemail and then be like, Roman did it, and he's going to get locked up or something.
Yeah.
So Kendall, Roman, and Shiv get together and are headed to a private area on this boat to avoid the guests, essentially, at Connor's wedding. And then Shiv's phone rings, and it's Tom Wamsgams, and she ignores the call. And Tom calls again, and she ignores it again. And that's how Shiv misses the chance to talk to her dad one more time before he's dead. Connor is still under the impression that his dad is going to pop by the wedding, which makes this all the sadder.
Yep.
And Shiv gets voted as the one to go tell Connor that isn't happening, to be the wedding Grinch, as she puts it. And that's the second reason she doesn't get to say goodbye to her dad before he's dead. Now it's time to get crazy and get to the crazy shit. But first, if you watched this episode and your fear of death was furthered, pushing you to care more about your health, today's sponsor, Athletic Greens, is for you. Why take a bunch of different things when you can just mix one scoop of powder in water once a day? Their flagship product, AG1, was designed with ease in mind so you can live healthier and better without having to do too much. It's the healthiest thing you can do in under a minute for the deal-making media mogul in your life or the everyday grind boy. AG1 has been part of millions of mornings since 2010, and in my time using it, I've noticed an increase in energy, mood support, and the biggest thing is better overall digestion. The goal of Athletic Greens is to make it easier for you to live your best life. If you want better gut health, immune system support, hate taking a bunch of different pills and vitamins, and want something that tastes great, AG1 has you covered. If you're looking for an easier way to take supplements, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Just go to athleticgreens.com/dragon. That's athleticgreens.com/dragon to support our show and your body at the same damn time, like a real executive baller should. athleticgreens.com/dragon. Go today. So after getting ignored by Shiv twice, Tom calls Roman, like right after Shiv walks off to go talk to Connor. Roman picks up, and the message he receives, it's a very staticky call because Tom is, 20,000 feet in the air or whatever on this plane. Tom says, your dad is very, very sick. It is very, very bad. It seems very bad. He says he was short of breath, and he went to the bathroom. Someone heard something, and they became concerned. They got in the bathroom using the key, and he is non-responsive, and they are doing chest compressions. They don't have a doctor on the plane, obviously, right? So, that becomes one of the first big concerns of Kendall in particular. Like, who is up there? Who is handling this? Who is in charge? Who's making the decisions? Should they be doing chest compressions and CPR? Mm-hmm. What is going on, right? And again, this is like 15 minutes into the episode. That was like the thing that really knocks you on your ass. Is it starts out, first 15 minutes, cold open included, you're like, all right, another episode of Succession. Like you're like settling in for it, right?
Here we
and
go.
then all
let's
of a sudden
let's
they're
go
just
see
like,
the Swede and get Connor married and get do some hijinks.
Yeah, and they've got all that stuff out there for you to look forward to. Like the trip to Sweden to see Matsson seems like it's going to be an interesting one. Mm-hmm. Connor and Willa's wedding, who knows what crazy shenanigans? Bam, Logan is dead. And you're just like, what the fuck is it? So it's like, I think the way they set that up also put us as the audience in a position to go through the stages of grief with the kids, where we're kind of in denial and don't know if we're supposed to accept this as reality or, as Roman puts it later, like, maybe this is some kind of test, right? We've already watched what is clearly some kind of test doled out by Logan to Roman earlier in the episode.
Right.
And they're not showing us the body. And the way it unfolds initially for the first several minutes here after the original news is given by Tom, like we really don't know what to make of it. Like, It looks really, it's like an odd situation on this plane.
It's very...
Nobody seems all too panicked, right? It's like a little too calm almost.
It is a little, yep.
Very weird, but on the plane, we get some shots of like Tom talking, using his phone to talk to Roman at first. And it's Tom, Carl, Frank, Carolina, and Carrie are the people that we are familiar with that are on this plane, plus the pilots and some crew, right? Yep. So Tom tells Roman and Kendall, like, I'm going to put the phone next to your dad's head and put you on speakers so that you have the chance to say goodbye. And at first they're like, what do you mean? Like Tom, is he okay? Is he doing okay? And Tom says, like, basically, like, if this is your last chance.
Yeah. Tom, debatable performance here under the pressure. He's I wouldn't go all the way to as far as to say that he sugarcoats this, but he's not being very clear with anything that he's saying. And I wondered kind of like, Tom goes pretty gray in this episode, I would say.
Yeah.
Just as far as like
he has that one emotional break, right? Where he's on the phone with Greg. But other than that, he's very odd.
But even the phone call with Greg, right? Is kind of, it's just weird. He smiles. He kind of laughs about some things. He makes the stocking joke. And
that's after giving Carrie shit for like smiling and being weird too, I think, right?
Yeah. So that his whole just like, and obviously I think, they're all telling Carrie that she's in shock, but I think Tom's probably in a little bit of shock as well.
Oh, definitely.
And also has the whole, the Shiv piece of this to deal with. But I just thought it was interesting the way that he tries to handle this. He doesn't ever say that Logan is actually dead. He just says it's not good. It's like, he's not okay. You should talk to him. And so, it just was like it was kind of an interesting bedside manner because I know he's trying to be real soft about it.
Well, you don't want to tell somebody, hey, your dad is dead and then be wrong.
And then be wrong. Right. And he's doing I think he's doing the right thing by giving them this opportunity. Like, right. Like we don't actually know. So we're just going to put your voice in his ear and y'all,
if he can hear,
and you have a chance to say something. But yeah, just it really added that kind of like, what is he saying? What is actually going on? Like that, everything about it just really like did a wonderful job making you kind of feel like you were a part of this. You didn't know what to think. You were kind of discombobulated and you could just kind of feel that that helplessness and that panic.
Yeah, the other side of Tom being in a strange place is that, as he puts it with Greg on the phone later, I've lost my protector.
Yeah.
Right? All of these people on this plane are pretty directionless. Kids included, not on the plane. They're directionless without this man. It's been the reason we've always questioned what they would do after Logan was dead. It's the reason we've argued that they couldn't kill him in season 3. They couldn't have him die in season 2. They needed this man. He's the fuel behind the entire show for this very reason.
Yeah, he's the source of pretty much all of the conflict.
Yeah.
Right?
So you asked me when I started to come around to the fact that Logan was actually dead. What did you think? We're at this point where Tom he's putting the phone down by Logan's ear while chest compressions are being performed. What did you think at this point, or up to this point? When was that moment for you that you said, "Oh shit, he really is gone"?
No, I was still, even through all the chest compressions. I mean, it seemed very serious, and then I think that when Logan and when Roman and Kendall both have opportunities to speak to their father, what they say and what they're going through there, and the way that they're not really able to communicate very well, and they both kind of say variations of "I love you," and then Kendall really kind of expresses it fully with the "but I can't forgive you." It's so intense that I was like, I'm pretty sure this is happening.
It's really going down.
Everything about the filmmaking and the all of the close-up shots and then those first two kind of monologues from the two sons was I was pretty sure, but at the same time, this was so out of left field, and they were being so vague about everything that I kept like I said, it really wasn't until they pull back to that shot for the Shiv call where they show you that from the top of his head down,
they've got his shirt
off,
off,
bare chested, he is on the floor, he's not moving. We don't know if he's breathing. The chest compressions at that point seem like something that they're essentially just trying to keep his heart going until they can get on the ground.
I mean, I don't even think his heart's going. It's just a matter of legally you're supposed to do that, I think.
Yeah. So but really it was that head down shot of him when we finally kind of see him for real on the ground that I was like, yeah, okay, think this is real.
Yeah. One of the other great things about this episode was that we have seen all of these people are incapable of communicating real emotion to each other. So there's a lot of things that are said, but where the sentence structure and words that are actually coming out of their mouths are pretty much gibberish.
Right.
But you still get the message.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful to watch unfold. So Roman gets the chance to talk first, and he tells his dad, you're going to be okay because you're a monster and you just win. You win, and you're a good man and a good dad, and you did a good job. And then he's like, I can't fucking do this, and gives the phone to Kendall, and Kendall tells him, hang in there. I love you, but I can't forgive you. And I thought that was just so powerful that even in this moment where he knows, I am likely saying the last thing I'll ever say to my dad, and that's if he can hear me at all.
Yeah.
I will not concede a forgiveness to this man.
Yeah, it was something.
That he cannot, right? Which really mirrors Shiv's call where she almost apologizes. She's like, she starts a sentence where she says, and there's no excuse. And I couldn't tell if she was going to go the direction of there's no excuse for the way you've treated us, or there's no excuse for the way that I have treated you, because she's very much been against Logan for this past 2 seasons, right?
Yeah. I think my read on that was that she was saying there's no excuse for him. There was no excuse for the way that he has been.
I went the other way with it, where I felt like she was almost going to apologize.
Yeah. I mean, I think she was the softest on him.
Oh yeah.
But I definitely thought that there was that it was intentional, that all three of them kind of even in their final words need to take that one more swipe, that they're not with Roman, you're a monster.
Yep.
Kendall, I still don't forgive you. And Shiv with the there's still no excuse for for behavior. And it's what it mirrored for me was the end of last episode, where for us in the audience, it's just give the man something here, right? Accept an apology, try to make the amends. You're adults, this is over, just get on with your lives, right? But they can't. They won't let it go.
Yeah.
They don't give him that. They just keep his feet to the fire, and now like even here in the final moments, it's like this is just something that is buried deep within, and that they're not going to let go of, and that, I mean, it's, you know, that's why this is who they are. Basically.
And it's a tough thing because when you remember the context, the karaoke bar, that was last night.
Yeah.
That was the last time they spoke with their dad.
Yeah.
When they all kind of, well, other than Roman, took shots at him, basically.
Yeah.
Or the other way you could look at it is they actually addressed a lot of his wrongdoings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on where you find yourself in that moment, Team Logan or Team Kids, depends on, that's what determines how you saw that scene play out, basically. But Kendall goes to get Shiv so that she can attempt to say goodbye as well. And when he goes to get her, he says, "Shivy, honey." And that's when she, like, it clicks, like something is very wrong for her. And she says, "Mom." Like, that's the first place she went. And she later explains that line to her brothers, that, like, essentially she meant to say dad, but she was hoping that it was their mom instead.
Yeah.
And Roman hands Shiv the phone, but man, she gets the toughest spot because before he even gives it to her, he's like, they think he's gone. They think dad died. So more than Roman and Kendall, who felt like they might have a chance to be heard and say something that he would process, right?
Yep.
She's basically talking to a dead man at that point. And Tom puts the phone by Logan's ear, and Shiv says, "Hey, Dad, hello?" Like this awkward beginning to a call, like you would start a call with a living person, right? Or somebody that was healthy and fine. She says, "You're going to be okay." Then she melts down a bit. She ends up like kind of reverting back to talking to Tom. Like, is he fucking dead? I don't even know if he's fucking dead. And then she says, like, "Daddy, I love you." And it gets real. It's this, at this point in the episode, like Shiv was the turning point for me from like awe to sadness, where I was like, damn, like it just got so real for me in that moment.
Yeah.
Roman gives Shiv a very weak hug to try to comfort her. And it was just like a furthering of that, like, these people don't do emotions well. They don't do comfort well.
Yeah.
They're not built for this, right? They're built for business. They're built for the backstabbing and the savagery. They're not built for this type of shit. And up until this point, again, they were very deliberately not showing us Logan's body until Shiv is telling her dad, "I love you." And I know one of the reasons they went that direction was to screw with us, right? So that we would all have these questions about how real this situation with Logan was. But it also felt like one of those things, like out of respect for the character, sort of, right? Out of respect for the performance of Brian Cox, even, sort of. Like, they don't give you, like, a face shot.
No.
We don't see his face from after that, you know, after he's boarding the plane. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, they do not show that, and I think it's because it's a little bit... like, it's just, I don't even know how to put, like, not classy, right? Like, it's just, like, sort of unnecessarily morbid.
And I also think, and I guess this is, it kind of tacks on to the first thing about, like, the kind of, they're messing with you, but even more than that, just to make it real, it was kind of like I'm sure everybody's kind of been in a situation like this, even if you're just, like, driving by an accident, right? And you see a stretcher out or something, but it's like, you can't really see what's going on. Plus, you got to keep your eyes on the road. In any type of situation like that, where you know something bad is happening, but you can't really you can't get a full look at it.
Yeah.
You can't actually see what's going on, so you don't actually know.
Yeah.
Like that they were keeping it at the eye level of everybody that was on the plane who is standing or sitting, right? So you only ever kind of just in the blurry, you know, background see the kind of specter of what is Logan's body.
Yeah.
And it enhances that feeling of like, there's something happening over there and I don't know what it is.
Nobody's sure.
But nobody's sure. But we just know that it's bad.
Yeah.
And and so brilliant direction and choreography and
well, you keep finding yourself being like, show me.
Yeah.
What is, show me
cinematography.
Let me see. Like, right? Like, that's kind of how it feels as a viewer. You're just like, oh, give me a fucking definitive look at this, at what is happening over there, man.
Right. Yeah.
And they end up shocking him with the defibrillator.
Yeah. Defibrillator.
Whatever. As Tom explains to the three kids on the phone that he thinks they, like, basically have to keep doing that and doing chest compressions, even though he is likely dead. And I'll just, from personal experience, some of you probably already know this, but I found a dead guy once.
Yeah.
in the parking lot of...
Funny how this story is so relative in so many different...
in different situations. I found a dead guy once in the parking lot of Barrett and I's office, our old company's office, and when the ambulance showed up, like he was gone. Very, very gone.
Yeah.
And they had me doing chest compressions on the phone, and that was really unpleasant. I was scarred for weeks and weeks and weeks.
That is a piece of the story I don't think I knew. You had to do chest compressions?
For like 20 minutes while the guy on the phone talked me through it. It was awful.
Oh, my God.
But ambulance shows up. Dude is dead as a doornail. They still worked on him for like a half hour.
Yeah.
And I had to stand there and watch because I was like, I don't know. What if he comes out of it? What if I saved his life? Mm-hmm. It was about me at that point. But seriously, like he was so dead, and they still were like, they did the defibrillator, they did the chest compressions, they continued working on him for a half hour.
Yeah.
So I think it's just standard operating procedure. Like they will try to save you, no matter what the circumstances are when they arrive. There's a certain amount of shit they're going to do, a checklist, if you will, they're going to go down before they actually declare you dead.
Yeah.
So the rest of this episode is perhaps the greatest display of the stages of grief through acting in the history of television that we get to experience through these kids, right? Like, Kendall tries to get Frank to let him talk to the pilot.
Yeah, he tries to business it.
Like, but he's told...
He's like moving into problem-solving mode. And
I've got this. But he's told he can't talk to the pilot because the pilot is flying the plane, son. And they do end up turning the plane around, right? Which I kept waiting for. I was like, land this fucking thing. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And again, at this point, the guy who was rooting for Logan to die is now rooting for them to do something to save him. So I don't know where I'm at. But they're turning the plane around, going back to Teterboro. Shiv is, at this point, very upset that nobody came and got her. She's like, why wasn't I here, like, with you two talking to him? Like, why didn't I get an opportunity to talk to him before he was dead, basically, which we know, as the viewers, is actually her fault because Tom called her first, twice, and she silenced the call. Which, when you really break it down, is actually more Logan's fault than anyone. He helped Tom with this divorce shit in a way that got Shiv and Tom to be at such odds that she's not answering his phone calls.
Yeah.
Irony. But Roman realizes that there's this moment where you see it in Roman's eyes. He's like, does anybody know if he like listened to his voicemail or something like that? Like he realizes he left his dad a very unpleasant voicemail literally right before he died. Mm-hmm. Like right before this happened, which, begs the question, did Logan listen to that voicemail in the bathroom? I don't think we'll ever find out. I don't think we'll ever get any further evidence, but I do think this is going to torture Roman for the remainder of the series, potentially in some very dark ways. Kendall and Shiv, they hold hands in one of the most touching moments we've seen between these kids to go and get Connor and tell him on his wedding day to a prostitute that his dad is dead. And they say they think he's dead, and Connor says, well... is he? And then he says, oh man, he never even liked me. I'm sorry, I don't even know what I mean. He did. I never got the chance to make him proud. He's dead. Like him trying to process it, because he's in a different boat, no pun intended, from these other three kids, right?
Yeah.
Where he sort of always felt like the black sheep, the odd man out. As Kendall put it in episode 3, you ignored Connor his whole life, had his mom locked up. I don't think he's ever felt the same way. He didn't want to be involved in the family business. He's not one of the people vying for control or succession.
Yeah, and I mean in that way, right? Like he's almost got the, and I think we see this as the episode continues, and he has this conversation with Willa, and then does follow through with the wedding that nobody attends essentially, but like
7 people there.
He's actually the best. He's actually the best off because he's removed himself from this like. The Shark Tank, essentially.
He's disassociated from it in a way.
From all of this like toxicity about who's going to succeed what, and like we're about to watch 7 episodes. Just people with, like I said, with the knives out, just ready to slit each other's throat. And Connor is a little bit, he's got his own thing. He's got his own weird thing with the running for president, but
his 1%.
He's got to get that 1%. But like, I think he has this almost like the safest space to just kind of recede to.
You end up feeling happy for him at the end of the episode when they show you like, oh, he did go through with the wedding, even though there's like 6 people there. On some level it's sad, but on another level it's the happiest I've ever felt for Connor.
Right.
Like he didn't let this monstrous father figure destroy his special day.
Right.
He went through with it anyway. Yep. So The kids, Connor included, they head up to a private room at the top of the boat, and that's where we will spend a lot of the rest of the episode. But first, don't air out your business for everyone online. Use today's next sponsor, NordVPN. NordVPN is here to drastically enhance your web browsing experience and data security. No one likes to be watched or tracked, even if they have nothing to hide. That's why it's important you step up your privacy game whenever possible. If you aren't using a VPN right now, you're currently open to having your internet data creeped on in a big way. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network and is a service that protects your internet connection and privacy online. It creates an encrypted tunnel for your data, protects your online identity by hiding your IP address, and allows you to use public Wi-Fi hotspots safely, and more. VPNs are the only way to be sure that your real location and IP address are hidden, your online data is encrypted, and your browsing history is invisible to your internet service provider and other third parties. Everybody who cares about their privacy should be using a VPN right now. NordVPN is the best and fastest VPN provider in the business. It is software, not hardware, so it's super easy to use across every major platform: Windows, Android, iOS, Mac OS, all of them. Even your Android TV supports NordVPN. You can connect with just one click or enable auto-connect for zero-click protection. Personally, love NordVPN because if you travel abroad, get a vacation in, let's say, you can make sure maybe you're going to visit Sweden.
I just used it. I just used it for 10 days in Hong Kong and Tokyo, man.
Beautiful.
No question about which VPN I was using.
Yeah.
Got to be able to cruise my sites. Works on your phone, works on your iPad, works on your computer.
Boom.
Beautiful.
That way you can access your favorite shows and movies from your home country on location-based streamers like HBO Max if you're overseas using NordVPN.
You bet your ass I did.
And at this point, it's important that we all take our steps to protect our online privacy. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/OCC to get a huge discount on your NordVPN plan and free threat protection plus 4 months for free when you grab a 2-year plan. There is a link for that deal in the description of this episode. Thank you to NordVPN for supporting the Clam Fam and our online security. Again, that's nordvpn.com/OCC for free threat protection plus 4 months for free when you grab a 2-year plan. nordvpn.com/OCC. So, at the top of the boat, Roman starts to go into denial, says they don't actually know he's dead. He has this little meltdown where he's like, well, if we don't know, it's not very nice to fucking say it, is it? So fucking stop. And it just, that, again, like the stages of grief kind of get displayed for us here one by one. Back on the plane, Carl starts drinking. He's like, I'm gonna go make a drink. Let's drink to him.
Got to get a stiffener.
And Carolina starts drafting a statement, and thus begins a lot of questions about how to handle Matsson, the board, Jerry, POTUS. She throws out like that's on the list of people they have to call, and really frames up like, oh, it's not just this personal loss for these people that we've come to know over the past 3 seasons. It is also this massive deal in the business world, so much so that the President of the United States needs to be informed that this man has passed away. There are all these board members and stockholders and the market shit. All of that comes into play here.
Oh, yeah.
And this is when probably my favorite scene of the episode unfolds. Carrie comes in. And she's like, wow, that was fucking crazy, right? And is like smiling a lot. And Tom mouths like, what the fuck? When she walks out of the room and says that her grin looks like she caught a foul ball at Yankee Stadium.
Amazing line. Amazing line.
Carl calls her Chuckles the Clown. And Tom has to call Greg and tell him to whiz up to the office because Logan is dead and he needs Greg to stick to Sid like a limpet. I don't even know what that is, but that's a classic Tom using words I don't understand. He also tells Greg he needs to delete his folder marked logistics and then delete that from the trash, and says, Merry Christmas. What's at the bottom of your stocking, Greg? An old guy who fucking hated you. A dead old guy who fucking hated you. We talked about it earlier, but this is where Tom kind of shifts into this even stranger, like, he's struggling with the realness of the situation, I think.
Yeah, and then and kind of thinking about all, everybody is starting to think about the fallout here, from the press release to the markets to the succession and the board and the sale and all of it. And Tom, who was really like, and I thought they did a good job even in the very opening of the episode with him walking with Logan. It just kind of conveying this sense that like Tom is in all of the rooms now. He is in all of the important places. He really has kind of ascended to be in this, you know,
he's in Logan's inner circle.
He's in this inner circle. Yeah, exactly. And so this is from a professional point of view, this is bad for Tom.
Very devastating.
This is bad news.
Yeah, he lost his protector. He went all in with this guy.
You know, and if Shiv finds her way back in with more control on the board or any type of power, which she's been working on getting back with the help of Sandy and Stewie, right? Like, he's done for, man.
Oh, yeah.
She's not going to keep his ass around.
He's in a bad spot here.
So I think it's all of this just kind of like working its way into his mind. And obviously, when you delete something, you have to delete it out of the trash as well, or else it's still on your computer.
Yeah. And even then, I have my fucking suspicions about what happens with that.
But the one thing here was like, I did kind of wonder to myself, I was like, well, did Logan hate Greg? You know?
Or was Tom just like giving him more shit
or
right
was
here?
Tom just, and the only reason that Logan really ever seemed to dislike Greg in the first place was because Tom kept setting him up to do stupid shit in front of Logan.
Yeah. I mean, we did get that line earlier in the episode where he tells him, like, you're not coming because you're visually aggravating to him. Right?
Yeah.
Which I think, yes, maybe there is a little bit of bad blood between Logan and Greg because of the roast of Logan Roy when he's like, where are your kids at, Uncle Logan? That wasn't great in terms of Greg, you know, strategically.
And his date, the rummaging in the house.
Yeah, but he smiled at that,
exactly.
right? So
well,
it's
that's
like,
what Greg said.
how much
anyways.
could he? Yeah,
I don't know. I kind of read all that a little bit as Tom keeping Greg at a distance as well.
Sure.
Because Greg, I mean,
doesn't want him to rise too high too fast.
Right. Well, yeah, Greg is blood.
Yeah.
Tom is by marriage.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
So,
and he's moving and shaking his way to the top.
So I do think that there's a little bit of a threat level midnight with Greg there.
I also think Tom saying that to Greg, like this old dead guy who fucking hated you, is kind of a defense mechanism in a way too. He's trying to come to terms with how screwed he is, I think.
Yeah.
And it's easier to like deflect onto Greg and project onto him than it is to accept it himself.
Yep.
Back in the boat, Roman asks if this is a drill or a big fucking test, which is obviously what a lot of us initially thought when we were like, there's no way they kill this dude in episode 3. Hugo comes in to consult with the kids and manage them, and their treatment of Hugo is another one of the pieces of like comedic relief throughout this episode. They're like, go out there and do your fucking job, like ordering him around. They're just so mean to this dude. No one likes him. And that's when the boat pushes off for Connor's wedding, by the way, which just, one of the moments that I knew the episode was as good as it is was when the boat pushed off, because I went, wait a minute, where are they going? They can't. I was reacting exactly like Kendall. I was like, they can't leave. They got to stay here. They got to get off the boat. They got to be able to go see their dad. Where are they going to go with the boat? Are they still going to do the wedding? What's happening? But the kids, after Hugo informs them that they're like drafting a statement, they're not comfortable with Carolina and Frank and Carl and Tom starting to draft that statement. And the business versus personal side of this thing starts to kind of spiral here, right? Carl describes the kids' relationship with their father as estranged, and Kendall does not like that. He defends their relationship, says they had a family function last night. It was not a function. It was a karaoke bar meeting for 10 minutes where Kendall aired out his dad, basically. And again, I did not have the framework in my mind like that was last night as I first started to process Logan's death. And then this was about the point in the episode where it started to click for me. But then Jerry comes up to the top deck and tries to comfort the kids a bit, which begs the question, like, is Jerry still fired? Or is Jerry going to do the classic, like, well, he didn't get to deliver the message and he's dead now, so I'm still here, right?
I think so.
Jerry becomes one of the people vying for succession. You'll
Jerry's
remember.
in the mix.
Logan appointed her CEO at one point, right? She's going to be in there fighting for this shit too. They discuss the possibility of keeping their father's death private until the markets close. They discuss having the plane circle, like until they've had enough time to like think about it, basically, which then, immediately it becomes clear like that might be illegal on some level, like market tampering or something like that, because Kendall tells Roman and Shiv that every single thing they do today is going in the memoirs, SEC filings, the fucking congressional records, coming up at board meetings, and they are highly liable to misinterpretation.
Yep.
And he says, what we do today will always be what we did the day our father died. So, let's grieve or whatever, but not do anything that restricts our future freedom of movement, which is Classic Kendall. He also says they can get a funeral off the rack. They can do Reagan's with tweaks, which I laughed out loud at. Ronald Reagan is the reference there, folks, if you missed it. Oh, President Ronald Reagan, classic Republican figure. And Carolina calls and says they just got a call from a reporter. There have already been questions asked about Logan's health, so things are leaking.
You think Greg leaked it?
It's possible. Could have been Carrie. She's back there being Chuckles the Clown, having a fucking meltdown.
Yeah, Greg's a sieve, you know what I mean?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Greg was talking to a journalist.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, it was definitely Greg. 100%. He's trying to get laid. And potentially weasel some situation for himself here.
He is kind of a weasel.
Oh, he is. He is a weasel. Little Greggies.
Little Greggies.
So the kids decide they want to make a statement themselves. They helicopter out to the airport where their father is going to be landing. Shiv delivers this message that they've written up to the press. What did you think about that? The fact that Shiv was the deliverer. Kendall said that, you feel like y'all are looking at me to do this, but I don't want to do it. I can't do it, basically.
Yeah, I think Shiv made the most sense. She was the right choice for authenticity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can't be Roman. Too weird.
Yeah.
Can't be Kendall.
And
too angry.
Kendall has too much. He just a year ago he was. He had that whole press conference where he was blowing the whistle.
Yeah.
So she was definitely the right one. And then I thought it was interesting how I thought what stood out to me was that she says, obviously I won't be taking any questions, and then she answers the first question.
By saying they're going to shepherd it as best they can.
Because the question is about essentially whether they'll be involved going forward, and she can't help but answer it and say, yeah, we're going to be in the mix. We will be at the helm leading this thing. Sees the opportunity to grab on to a tiny piece of control, or of
the narrative anyway.
The narrative, and goes for it, even though she said she wasn't going to answer any questions.
Yeah. I also loved that when she started the grieving mourning process, she put on her sunglasses, right? She's been crying and shit. She doesn't want people seeing her eyes. It just kind of kicked into funeral mode almost. No, when you put it the way that you just did, it really makes sense that it was Shiv. There's no other options. Kendall is not even able to forgive this guy. Who the hell knows what he would say if he got up there? She was the only choice, really, which is saying something. Right? I mean, that you and I have said several times over these few seasons already that Shiv is kind of the only realistic option for succession if somebody was going to take Logan's spot.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll have to wait and see. So the scene of them taking his body off the plane, or first just when the plane lands and his best pal, Logan's best pal, Colin, shows up to pick him up, and the shot of him standing there realizing there is no one to pick up, and as Carrie gets into the back seat of his car, because apparently he's still going to have to drive her, which feels presumptuous on Carrie's end. The stock price plummets, right? This gets out before the markets close.
Yep.
Roman pulls out his phone and says, look, there's Dad, and it's this massive cliff, a just huge drop-off for their stock price, which, from the standpoint of everything we've been analyzing so far this season, absolutely screws the Gojo deal.
Yeah, yes.
Mattson is not going to pay the negotiated price for a company that is now worth pennies on the dollar by comparison to where it was at.
Yeah, I sure don't think so.
So it's just, that part of it is interesting because it's kind of like everything we've watched so far this season doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons I think they probably had to do this in episode 3, right? Where are we at? 3?
Yep, this is episode 3.
Can't go too far into the season and then kill Logan, because it does kind of feel like, well, the first 2 episodes were sort of meaningless in some ways. Now, obviously, there was greater depth to the relationship between Logan and his children and some of these other things, but from a business perspective, everything is screwed now. Yeah. There is no way the Gojo deal is going down. There is no way these kids are able to purchase PGN, right? I mean, the legal stuff that is going to occur over this next 7 episodes is going to be chaos.
It's too bad, though, because I would definitely have watched the global to hyperlocal, all Africa all the time.
I know, Sub-Saharan especially.
Sub-Saharan programming that was bouncing around in Kendall's brain there. You know what I mean?
hyper. Oh, what a nut. Roman is the only kid that goes to see their father off the plane, which also tracks from the perspective of like he was the only one who really, I think, deeply cared for him.
I mean, was certainly at the moment in time the closest to his dad, the closest to feeling good about his relationship, I think.
Kendall watches from a distance and is very broken up, and I thought it was extremely notable that the last frame we get in this episode is of Kendall watching from afar as they load his father's body into the ambulance and the emotional impact that has on him. He's got 2 tears rolling down his face, and he is very broken up.
Very choked up, very broken up,
Yeah, Shiv can't even bring herself to be a part of that. She, leaves, and I think she leaves with Tom.
She does,
And she's asking him to, again, recount how this went down on the plane. As Barrett mentioned, Connor and Willa do go through with their wedding. There are 7 people there, so at least that was also just a beautiful piece of the last 10 minutes that they showed us that one scene.
Yeah, and we should touch quickly on the conversation that they do have.
Connor and Willa
on the boat, where Connor kind of basically finally asks the question that he's been wanting to ask for their entire engagement, right?
Yeah.
Which is or their entire relationship which is, are you only here for money?
Right.
Is that all that this is about? And I think Willa, this all felt very intentional and meaningful. That Willa says there is a money and security thing here, but it is also more than that.
That she's happy.
She's happy.
Right? When she says I am happy, on some level that is she likes being with Connor, right?
And we talked last week, right, about, kind of begged the question of what's the difference really between some of these relationships where people are marrying for money and one that literally started as with a transactional nature. And
Connor had pointed out I don't need love, right? That was one of the advantages of having a family that didn't love him, that even if Willa didn't love him, he'd still be fine.
So, and so I thought again that they were just kind of alluding to that a little bit, this relationship started out one way, but has grown into something meaningful. And sure, there's something about safety and security and money to back up a relationship, but you could say that about a lot of relationships and a lot of different things about why people choose who they choose.
Absolutely.
So I certainly thought we were supposed to read the happiness here for this couple as non-traditional as they are.
Yes. As I said, happiest Connor moment for me of the series, watching them go through with the wedding. So, all said and done, let's just give some closing thoughts. It was really, really powerful. This was having never lost somebody super close to me, I have never had to endure the grieving and mourning personally. But I've watched other people go through it. I've helped other people through it, and this was just such a beautiful display of how that sort of goes, how the shock, the disbelief, the inability to accept, right? Moving through all the different stages of grief with the denial and the anger and the bargaining and all of that stuff. It was such a realistic display of how it feels to lose someone that was just last night, right there with you. Or in the case of Roman, you just talked to him on the phone and now he's gone, right? That's the way it goes, man. You imagine in your head that when you lose someone close to you that you'll get the chance to say goodbye, or that you'll see it coming. So there's they'll be sick for a while and then I'll get to spend the final days with them or whatever. But we had been queued up for this since season 1. I mean, somebody put it this way on Twitter that I thought was well said, that we finally, in episode 3 of season 4, we finally tie back to season 1, episode 1, where he had that first stroke.
Right.
And we were all from that moment waiting for the other shoe to drop with this guy, and they kind of led us on, right? It's sort of, his health fades into the background at some point for a lot of us as viewers. And it was always there for me. Like, it always bothered me. We talked about it.
It does come up. It was only a season ago that he went piss mad.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was not good.
They do, even though he is mostly,
bit,
after he recovers from that stroke, like, yes, he's mostly a bull again, but like, they do show cracks in that facade over the course of the other 2 seasons as well, I think, if you're watching for that, to let that trickle in and think about, like, man, is this guy really all the way back to 100%, or did this really kind of like take him down a peg and he's kind of could happen at any moment, essentially.
Yeah.
But dude, and like I said, which I think I talked about a couple weeks ago, like on the season 1 rewatch, like in season 1, he's already in his 80s.
Yeah.
He's already like 83 or 84 years old, I think.
I think he's 84 now.
84
when he dies,
now?
I think.
Okay. So maybe he's 81 or 82 when it all starts. But like, that's a lot different than being in your 60s or your 70s even.
Yeah, so the LA Times actually put out like a, what's it called? Obituary for him, like published a story as if it was legitimate, like as if it was real. Logan Roy, conservative media mogul who shaped contemporary politics, dies at 84.
At 84, okay, all right.
Which was just cool to see, but also like very spoilery. So they pumped it out last night, like immediately. Like my dad sent in our family group text the screen cap of this fake Los Angeles Times article. My wife hadn't got to watch the episode yet because she was putting the baby to bed. So I had to go to her phone and delete it, like Roman wishes he could go delete that voicemail from his dad's phone so that she wouldn't get it spoiled for her. But it was as a guy who's dealt with a lot of like, how dare you pump this stuff out? Spoiler alert.
Right.
I was very careful.
Yeah.
So far, by the way.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Been putting out vague stuff.
Right.
Just the screen caps.
Yes.
You don't know what happened.
Just a little tease.
But I know the LA Times has been getting hell today from pissed off people for sure.
One of my closing thoughts now is, I kind of recall when we were covering The Last of Us, we had questions about, were Pedro Pascal's character to leave the show for any number of reasons. Could the Bella Ramsey character, kind of carry the weight of the show?
Yeah. Did she have enough?
Right.
Yeah.
And could Ellie carry the show on her own? And that's kind of like another question that I feel bubbling up here.
Oh yeah,
right.
Sure.
Because as we've mentioned, like everybody on the show is phenomenal, but Brian Cox has been kind of the engine.
Yeah.
And so there is now in a lot of ways there's going to be a void. Right now, I'm just concerned trolling at this point because this is probably the best ensemble cast ever on TV, and like everybody from Jeremy Strong to Sarah Snook to Kieran Culkin and Alan Ruck, like everybody is phenomenal. But it will be interesting to see that vacuum.
That's the beauty of it, though, right? Like,
and see how they all kind of like fill it in, and then just as far as the plot as well, like obviously a massive power vacuum that will I think create the plot for the rest of the season.
I was thinking we'd probably get a situation where there were like 3 or 4 episodes of Fallout, that would be how this season would unfold. Like we'd probably lose Logan, or he would be removed from the company with a 3-4 episode remaining time frame for us to play with. I'm so excited that we have 7 left, and that the Fallout is going to be as gruesome as we all expect if it's going to be that many episodes.
Right.
I think that power vacuum, both in the way, like it's one of those things where it's like he's gone, but like, is he, even if they don't show him, is he really gone?
Right,
like, that's how heavy his presence was. That's how much he impacted all these characters.
Totally. And
now we'll get to see it kind of without him having to be there directly. Everybody is going to be fighting for the crown, as it were, in terms of Waystar Royco. The value of the company has very clearly plummeted, at least temporarily. What's going to happen there? It is going to be a shit show.
Yeah, very possible that last episode was kind of Brian Cox's last one to really see Logan. This might have been the last one where we see the kids, warm towards each other, hugging, trying to empathize, sticking together, all of that. Because I feel like,
it's going to get ugly.
The will of the self is going to prevail.
Yeah. I mean, there's even that moment where they're in the airplane hangar waiting to go make the statement to the media, and Roman and Kendall go back and forth like, you're so fucked. No, you're so fucked. Like, we're all fucked. That whole thing, it starts to unravel a little bit there. It's going to be great. We're very excited to talk more about this episode, further digest and discuss it later this week on Thursday on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, with further conversation driven by hotline calls from our supporters there. So if you are looking for more coverage of Succession's final season, remember we do an exclusive ad-free episode every week driven by hotline calls from the Oyster Clam Co. board members on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. Subscribe on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles today for as little as $5 a month to support our show and enjoy so much more exclusive OCC content ad-free, When you join, you'll immediately gain access to our entire backlog of episodes, including the first 2 bonus episodes for Succession Season 4, all of our The Last of Us hotline call episodes, bonus coverage for Season 1 of House of the Dragon, Season 2 of The White Lotus, and you'll gain access to our entire companion podcast for HBO's classic crime drama The Sopranos, friendly to both first-timers and rewatchers, on top of all of our bonus coverage of Succession's final season. That's patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. Support our sponsors. We'd appreciate it if you'd support our sponsors all season long by using our dedicated URLs and codes. That is how we pay the piper here at Oyster Clam Co. Links and codes for today's sponsors in the description of this episode. If you're an F1 fan, check out Bolin Media's premier F1 programming, Formula Bone, at youtube.com/@FormulaBone and @FormulaBone on all social media. For more from me, Ross Bolin, listen to the Ross Bolin podcast wherever podcasts are played, or watch on youtube.com/@the Ross Bolin podcast. Follow Mr. Barrett Dudley at Barrett Dudley on Instagram and Twitter, and me at WR Bolin, and go to bolinmedia.com/shop to grab yourself some merch. Barrett and I will be back Thursday. Really looking forward to all the hotline calls and to dig into this one even
good ones.
Even more so. The final episode featuring Brian Cox. I'm also looking forward to interviews with him. I have to assume that it'll almost be like winning a Super Bowl, that he'll go around and do all the late night talk shows, right?
Yeah, all the press.
Right?
Yes.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, fuck off.